Something mechanical just moved deep underneath the Mariana Trench right now, and cameras finally exposed the worst. 11 kilometers down where nothing should survive, something is crawling through the crushing darkness. Not a creature. A machine. And the footage that leaked before the feed went dark has governments going silent and corporations abandoning the trench completely. What did those cameras expose? The discovery and the deepest point on Earth. New mystery emerges in the Mariana Trench as scientists detect something below 11 kilometers. What if I told you something mechanical just started moving at the bottom of the Mariana Trench and it's still moving right now? No sub, no signal, no explanation. Just a rhythmic, calculated march through Earth's deepest, deadliest black. Then came the lights, then the sounds, then a heat plume that matched a signal no one claimed. What kind of feature is it down there? There's a whole lot of questions you get when you find this one spectacular reading. But here's the part that's keeping scientists up at night. Something answered back. What's waking up 11 kilometers below sea level? It's a big surprise. All of a sudden, we've got scientists saying, why is that? If you want to talk about a place that refuses to give up its secrets, the Mariana Trench is it, the deepest point on Earth. A black void nearly 11,000 meters down. So deep Mount Everest could sit inside it with room to spare. Down there, the pressure isn't just intense, it's apocalyptic. Every square inch of your body crushed by the weight of about 90 elephants. Temperatures hovering just above freezing. Light, zero. Sound, practically none. It's the closest thing on Earth to being on another planet. And that's exactly why what happened next freaked scientists out. Late in 2024, a set of passive seafloor sensors, quiet little instruments buried in the mud by Japan's Jamstack agency to monitor tectonic activity, picked up something they were never designed to catch. Not a quake, not a vent eruption, not a landslide. Movement. Mechanical movement. The first warning sign wasn't visual. It was a weird vibration pattern, a rhythmic tick, tick, tick that echoed through the sediment like the pulse of something alive. Except nothing alive down there moves in perfect intervals. Then the water flow shifted. Current disruption. But here's the thing. Currents don't stop and restart in crisp machine-like pulses. They swirl. They drift. They meander. This thing didn't drift. It marched. A 10-meter-wide disturbance pushing aside the mud with uniform pressure, traveling in a straight line for nearly 12 minutes before pausing, then doing it again. The sensors practically screamed. There is something down here with purpose. You know what the weirdest part is? No vessel was anywhere near the trench that week. No AIS cross-check, ship traffic, nothing. Satellite AIS logs empty. Even China's usually busy deep-sea research fleet was thousands of kilometers away. So if no one was there, what was? Theories and the missing prototype. This is where the theories start getting wild. Some oceanographers think it could be a previously unknown species, something huge, armored, and ancient. There are deep-sea creatures we still haven't discovered, including xenophyophores the size of dinner plates and amphipods that can survive pressure that would liquefy your bones. So could something evolve to tolerate 11,000 meters and move like a tank? Maybe. But then comes the fun fact that ruins that idea. Nothing biological moves with mathematically perfect pacing. Not sharks, not giant squid, not worms, not anything. Then you have the people who swear this is advanced robotics, possibly a deep-sea mining crawler China never admitted to building. Except the deepest Chinese crawler ever tested was the Haiyangwu, which maxed out at 6,000 meters. 11,000 meter pressure would crush it into scrap metal in seconds. Others claim this is military hardware, a deep-sea cable cutter, a mobile trench sensor, something meant to hide, not to be found. But again, no country has admitted deploying anything at that depth, and the Challenger Deep is under constant international surveillance. You can't just sneak a robot down there like a submarine slipping through fog. So then comes the theory nobody wants to say out loud. What if it wasn't from us? Not aliens. Calm down. But pre-modern human technology we didn't know existed. Lost expeditions. Ancient cultures with metalwork abilities deeper than the textbooks admit. Sounds crazy, right? But the biggest question still hangs in the dark. If something mechanical moved down there, did it stop? Because according to the next set of readings, it didn't. The robot they denied building just showed up on the wrong side of the planet. Here's where things take a turn. Not long after the anomaly was first tracked, international ocean monitoring teams began asking a question that felt more like science fiction than science. What if the object crawling along the trench floor was built by someone who never announced it? Enter Project Mimir. You won't find much about it online unless you know what to look for. Mimir was the code name for an unconfirmed joint development between an unnamed Scandinavian AI lab and an East Asian defense contractor. Think MIT-level robotics meets military-grade secrecy. The goal? Build the first autonomous deep-sea crawler capable of staying submerged for over 6 months without a tether, human contact, or resurfacing. And according to a leak on a defense contractor forum in early 2025, a prototype allegedly went missing during a pressure test off the coast of Taiwan. That same month, that mysterious mechanical motion showed up in the Mariana Trench. Coincidence? Here's the mind bender. The last ping from the missing Mimir prototype showed it descending past 8,000 meters before vanishing completely. That's below its rated depth limit. Engineers assumed it had imploded under pressure and was lost forever. But deep-sea currents don't behave randomly. They're heavily mapped. And that crawler couldn't have drifted to the trench without guidance. Something moved it. Something powered it. Or maybe it never failed at all. Maybe it adapted. Strange signals and mysterious lights. And that's when the most chilling piece of data emerged. An autonomous hydrophone buoy operated by a private marine listening network near the Caroline Islands picked up a bizarre set of acoustic pulses near the trench floor. They weren't natural sounds. They weren't Morse code. But they repeated. And the intervals were exact. 42 seconds apart. Every single time. Each burst lasted 3.14 seconds. Yeah, 3.14. Pi. The mathematical constant. You're telling me that's a coincidence? Marine engineers analyzing the acoustic fingerprint said the pulses resembled low-energy drive mechanisms, like propulsion cycles, but with no cavitation. No bubbles. No sound of exhaust or propellers spinning. Just rhythmic clicks like a ticking clock. The sound signature of a machine, not a creature. And get this. After each pulse burst, the seafloor temperature rose by 1/10 of a degree Celsius. Just enough to hint at thermal propulsion or some kind of internal power source still active. Something generating heat at the bottom of the trench. And yet, no country has claimed it. No recovery effort was launched. No alert was issued. No admission came from any government. Which brings us back to a question that gets asked in hushed tones at conferences and whispered through encrypted back channels. Did we build something we can no longer track? Or did someone else? But while analysts were obsessed with what was crawling along the bottom, they missed a detail far stranger. Something was watching it. In early 2025, NOAA's Deep Discover program deployed a pair of deep-sea gliders near the Mariana Trench. These aren't flashy robots. They're slow, silent, winged torpedoes designed to drift for weeks mapping temperature, current, and light. That last one is crucial because light doesn't exist in the Hadal zone. Not natural light. Nothing from the sun penetrates that far. Any light has to be made from a creature, a submersible, or artificial technology. In late February, both gliders independently logged brief flashes of soft blue light in rhythmic patterns. Hundreds of meters apart. In sync. These gliders weren't on the same path. They were kilometers apart, passing on opposite trench flanks. Yet both detected identical pulses. 6 flashes, then a pause, then 6 again. The sequence repeated 33 times over 2 hours. No known creature flashes in uniform mirrored bursts across large distances. That level of coordination across that distance? That's design behavior. That's communication. But the strangest twist came next. The flashes stopped the moment the trench crawler began to ascend. Like someone or something was watching it until it moved. But what were these lights really saying? And why did they connect to something far more sinister hidden beneath the ocean? The undersea cable network revelation. Here's a wild theory. Some researchers think the crawler may not be alone. It could be part of a network. A kind of deep-sea drone system built for silent spying, environmental watching, or worse. And if that's true, someone figured out how to build an underwater communication web in the most hostile place on Earth, right under everyone's noses. Because here's the scary part. There's no record of anyone turning these lights on. But they blinked. And they blinked in code. But there's something nobody's talking about. Something that connects all of this in a way that should scare anyone who uses the internet. 99% of all internet traffic flows through undersea cables. Not satellites. Not wireless towers. Cables. Physical lines running along the ocean floor. They carry everything. Your emails. Government secrets. Banking transactions. Military orders. And several major cables pass within 50 kilometers of the Mariana Trench. These cables are the weakest point in our entire digital world. Cut one, and whole continents go dark. Tap into one, and you can read the world's secrets. And this is where the story gets really disturbing. Deep analysis of those binary light pulses showed something experts didn't want to believe. The pattern doesn't just look like binary code. It matches the exact structure of internet data. Not similar. Identical. And the timing? It lines up perfectly with busy internet hours on nearby cables. Those same cables that had packet delays during the light events. They carry 3 major routes. United States to Japan. Australia to Guam. Taiwan to the Philippines. Think about what that means. Fiber optic cables leak tiny amounts of light when they transmit data. It's barely noticeable. Almost impossible to detect. But at extreme depths with the right equipment, that light leakage can be read. The binary signals might not be messages at all. They might be stolen internet communications. Someone or something is reading the world's digital traffic from the bottom of the trench. Internet security companies noticed something strange in recent months. Weird routes in internet traffic. Data packets taking a little longer to arrive. When they traced where the delays happened, every single one passed through cables near the Mariana Trench. Some encrypted government messages showed signs of someone trying to break in. Not successful break-ins. Just testing. Probing. Like someone looking for weak spots. But nobody expected what came next when researchers looked at underwater maps and saw what this thing was actually following. The deep sea mining connection, the sound that echoed from where no sound should come. Just when researchers thought the light pulses were the strangest part of this trench mystery, something else happened. Sound. On March 15, 2025, an underwater listening station near Guam picked up a low-frequency pulse coming from the direction of the Mariana Trench. That's not unusual by itself. Earthquakes, whale calls, and even ice movements create underwater rumbles all the time. But this one was different. It had structure. The sound lasted just under 7 seconds. But within it was a repeating rhythm. 2 low booms, then 1 sharper pulse, and then it echoed. Not in a natural fading way. More like a controlled bounce. It hit something solid. Possibly something massive. Scientists fed the signal into analysis software, and what came out wasn't just weird. It was perfectly clean. No natural source, no animal call, no earthquake produces such perfect sound patterns. They named it the trench ring. At first, researchers thought maybe it was seismic activity misread as audio. But then it happened again. And again. Over 2 weeks, the trench ring was detected 9 more times. All from within a narrow band inside the deepest zone, roughly 10,700 meters down. Want to hear the kicker? One of the deep-sea gliders picked up something else during one of the sound events. Slight pressure changes consistent with something extremely large moving through water at depth. Not a submarine. Not a known probe. Something unaccounted for. And here's the moment that gave everyone chills. An old NOAA recording from 1997 was looked at again using the new sound pattern. That recording, known among ocean experts as the bloop, had always been a mystery. An ultra-low frequency sound recorded thousands of kilometers apart. Theories ranged from ice breaking to mythical sea beasts. But when compared with the trench ring's pattern, the pulse structure matched almost exactly. So either the same thing made both sounds, or it's been down there all along. Some researchers are now thinking about a truly unsettling idea. What we're hearing may not be a single machine but a waking structure. Something buried in the seafloor. Covered in ocean snow and mud, now slowly coming back to life. But here's what nobody expected. There's a pattern to when these sounds happen. And it has nothing to do with tides, moon cycles, or earthquakes. It has everything to do with what humans have been doing down there. Heat signatures and government silence. In April 2025, just weeks after the trench ring pulses were last heard, something even stranger happened. Not under the ocean, but above it. A commercial satellite from a European company flagged a glitch in its daily Pacific scan. The image showed a faint heat signature just above the Mariana Trench. Barely visible. A soft circular spot roughly 100 meters wide, lasting under 11 seconds before disappearing. At first, analysts thought it was a sensor error. Satellites malfunction all the time. But this wasn't a camera problem. It was a heat reading. And when they checked past scans, this wasn't the first time it happened. Similar heat spots appeared in June 2024, January 2023, and once before in 2019. All above the exact same location. And here's the connection that made everyone nervous. Every single date lines up with mining survey trips in the trench. The data was quietly sent to a research group in the Netherlands. They compared it to ocean maps and deep-sea movement records. Their conclusion? The heat was coming from below. Not from the air or a ship, but from the ocean floor. Rising up through nearly 11 kilometers of freezing water. Only visible for moments when the ocean surface was perfectly calm. Think about that. To create a heat signal that sized through that much pressure in that short a time, you'd need one of 2 things. A massive natural volcanic vent, which maps have never shown in that area. Or a man-made source of power shooting upward in a focused beam. A focused heat pulse in the middle of the Pacific Trench. That's not natural. That's planned. But here's what sealed it. When one researcher compared the heat timing with the trench ring sound timing, something impossible appeared. The heat bursts matched the sound pulses by minute and second. Let that sink in. The sound pulsed from the trench. The lights blinked in sync. And now the heat matches too. One analyst from the British Oceanic team, speaking secretly, said either someone is building something down there, or something was buried and now it's waking up. It would be easy to dismiss this as fiction except for one detail. 3 countries, China, the United States, and Japan, all sent deep-sea drones toward the trench the following week. But not a single one released footage, data, or a statement. And for the first time since the trench was discovered, every public exploration feed went dark. What did those drones see that made 3 governments go completely silent? The response signal and dual-purpose theory. You remember the blinking lights, the coded pulses in binary, the unexplained trench movement that matched no known submarine? Well, as of May 2025, something answered back. But not how you'd think. Here's what happened. Roughly a month after the last heat signal was detected from space, a French listening system known as Chaos picked up weird vibrations. Not from the trench this time, but from nearly 800 kilometers away, off the coast of Papua New Guinea. At first glance, it looked like a minor earthquake. But here's what stopped analysts cold. The duration of the vibration was identical to the pulses heard in the trench ring events. 7 seconds. Not close. Exact. And those same 3-beat pulses? They were in the signature. Except they were played backward. Now hold on. You're telling me an earthquake hundreds of kilometers from the original site suddenly copies the exact rhythm of a sound event from the deepest place on Earth, but in reverse? Dr. Evie Grant from the Oceanic Signal Intelligence Task Force said something shocking during a closed lecture. This isn't an echo. It's a conversation. It's not noise. It's waiting for input and replying. What does that mean? It means something heard what happened in the Mariana Trench. And now it's speaking back. Not with light. Not with heat. But through the Earth's crust itself. And here's where it gets really weird. 1 week after that reverse pulse event, a drone probe launched secretly by China's Dragonfish program lost all contact exactly 12 minutes after reaching 10,600 meters. No error codes. No collapse alerts. Just silence. But 3 days later, another research station in Guam picked up a short burst of data from the trench. A compressed packet. Encrypted. But here's what leaked through. A string of numbers repeating 3 times. 12, 18, 20, 25. The first thought was a timestamp. But there's a problem. It's a date. December 18, 2025. That's 9 days from now. So what is it? A predicted event? A time window? A warning? Digital analysts confirmed the data was structured, not corrupted. Which means it came from a system. Something with purpose. But here's the question keeping intelligence analysts awake at night. What if this isn't just spy technology? What if it isn't just a defense system reacting to mining? What if it's both? And if something down there is serving 2 purposes at once, who built it and what else can it do? Indigenous warnings and corporate secrecy. There's a part of this story that researchers ignored for too long. The warnings that existed for generations. Passed down through stories. Carved into ancient stones. Whispered by elders who've watched the ocean their entire lives. The Chamorro people of Guam have lived near the Mariana Trench for over 3,000 years. Their legends speak of the sleepers beneath. Powerful guardians who rest in the deepest waters, protecting something that must never be disturbed. The stories describe lights that appear when the barrier between worlds grows thin. Sounds that echo like thunder from below when the balance is threatened. And a warning. Clear and consistent across generations. Those who dig too deep will awaken what was meant to sleep. For decades, researchers cataloged these stories as mythology. Beautiful cultural tales, but nothing more. Now they're being looked at with new urgency. Similar legends exist throughout Micronesia and Polynesia. The people of Palau speak of ancient ones who sank into the deep to guard the bones of the earth. In Chuck, there are stories of glowing serpents that patrol the trenches, attacking any who try to steal from the ocean's heart. The Marshallese have prophecies about a time when lights from below will warn of coming danger. What's remarkable is how consistent they are. Across thousands of kilometers. Across cultures that had limited contact with each other. The same themes emerge. Lights in the deep. Sounds like thunder. Warnings against disturbing what lies below. And consequences for those who ignore the signs. When researchers showed Chamorro elders the data from the trench, the light patterns, the sound readings, the heat signals, the response was immediate. This is what the stories warned about. You've awakened them. One elder said something that made scientists uncomfortable. You think you discovered something new. But we've always known they were there. Our ancestors knew. They respected the boundary. You've crossed it. But while indigenous communities were warning of consequences, corporations were racing to take the very resources that might be triggering this response. The metals company has been at the front of deep-sea mining exploration. Their public statements talk about environmental care and responsible extraction. Their internal documents tell a different story. A leaked memo from November 2024, just weeks before the first mechanical movement was detected, describes unexpected behavior during a deep-sea survey. Equipment responding to commands it wasn't given. Sensors detecting movement where no movement should exist. The memo ends with a directive that's chilling. Classify all trench data. Stop public reporting. But what did they find that made them go so quiet? The race against time. December 9, 2025. Today. Right now. As you hear these words, there are 9 days until the date in that signal. 9 days until December 18th. And the activity around the Mariana Trench has gotten intense in ways that suggest governments are taking the threat very seriously. Satellite images from commercial providers show an unusual concentration of naval ships in the Western Pacific. The U.S. Navy has moved the USS Connecticut, a Seawolf-class attack submarine, to waters near Guam. These submarines are among the quietest and most capable in the world. Designed for deep-water operations. But they're not research vessels. They're combat platforms. China has sent at least 3 nuclear submarines to the region, along with a fleet of research vessels that experts say are equipped with far more than scientific instruments. Their sonar matches military-grade systems capable of detecting and tracking underwater objects at extreme depths. Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force has activated its deep-sea rescue unit, supposedly for a training exercise. But the timing is suspicious. And the equipment they've deployed includes special underwater vehicles rated for depths over 10,000 meters. These 3 nations, often at odds over territory and strategy, are all heading to the same location. And they're not talking to each other. At least not publicly. Meanwhile, the metals company has made no public statement about December 18th. Their website still lists deep-sea mining as a main goal. Their investor calls still talk about the massive potential of Pacific mineral deposits. But their CEO has cancelled all public appearances. Their operations director has taken extended leave. And their insurance companies have reportedly refused to renew coverage for deep-sea extraction activities. Behind the scenes, there's different activity. Emergency meetings at the International Seabed Authority. Closed-door sessions at the UN Security Council. Encrypted communications between intelligence agencies. Something is being negotiated. Some kind of response is being planned. But here's what's leaked to the public. There's disagreement. Serious disagreement. One group argues for immediate action. Send down everything we have. Recover or destroy whatever's causing these signals before December 18th. Show that humanity won't be stopped from accessing resources in international waters. Show strength. Another group argues for caution. We don't know what we're dealing with. We don't know if it's hostile or defensive. We don't know if destroying it might trigger something worse. The signals might be warnings. Ignoring warnings rarely ends well. And then there are the indigenous communities. Pacific Island nations have filed emergency legal actions with international courts. They're arguing for ancestral rights to the trench. But legal arguments take time. And there are 9 days left. What will happen when that countdown reaches 0? The countdown and what comes next. So here we are. 9 days from a date we didn't choose. A date that was sent to us from 11 kilometers below the surface. A date that might mean nothing. Or might mean everything. Let's review what we know. Something mechanical is moving at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. It follows undersea communication cables. It responds to seismic testing from mining surveys. It sends light pulses that match binary code and internet data patterns. It creates sound signatures that are mathematically precise. It generates heat signals detectable from space. And it sent a message with a specific date. We know that multiple nations have sent military ships to the region. We know that mining corporations have quietly backed away from extraction plans. We know that indigenous communities have been warning about this for generations. And we know that on December 18th, something is supposed to happen. But what? That's the question keeping analysts awake. The scenarios range from simple to catastrophic. Best case? December 18th was the planned date for extraction, and the signal is simply telling us that date is known. It's spy technology from a nation monitoring mining activities to protect territorial or economic interests. On the 18th, they'll reveal themselves. There will be diplomatic problems, but nothing more. Moderate case? The signal is a genuine warning from a defense system that was put there to protect deep-sea mineral deposits. If extraction happens on December 18th, the system will fight back. Maybe it cuts undersea cables. Maybe it interferes with operations. There's economic damage, but no direct harm. Concerning case? We've awakened something that's been dormant. Not aliens. but a Cold War-era system that's been sitting on the seafloor for decades, waiting. December 18th might be when it completes some kind of activation sequence. When it reaches full power. When it switches from warning to action. Worst case? The signal is a countdown to something we can't predict or control. The seismic testing and mining exploration have destabilized something. And December 18th is when consequences begin. But here's what might be the most important question. What if we're asking the wrong thing? What if the question isn't what will happen on December 18th, but what choice will we make? Because that's what this really comes down to. A choice. Do we proceed with deep-sea mining? Do we continue treating the ocean floor as an industrial resource to exploit? Do we ignore the warnings? Or do we pause? Do we admit there are things we don't understand? Do we recognize that the deepest parts of our planet might need to remain untouched? 9 days to decide. 9 days until we find out if we're listening or conquering. The countdown clock keeps ticking. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe and also click the next video shown on your screen.